Hey guys, it's Joe from AmericanTrucks, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at the Barricade HD Off-Road Front Bumper with LED lighting, fitting all 09 to 14 F150s, excluding the Raptor models. Now this is going to be a great option for you if you're looking for a relatively budget-friendly off-road capable front bumper that throws in some extra auxiliary lighting. So what do we have going on here with the HD Off-Road? First, let's talk about build quality, and as you'd expect, this thing is made out of heavy-duty steel, 5/32 inch. It's sealed in that ultra-durable two-stage black powder coating, which is not just there to add to the looks, albeit it does match a blackout look almost perfectly, and our matte black grille here is pretty much a perfect match, but it also serves as a nice layer of protection over top of that steel against the elements. This bumper was also designed with off-roading in mind. We're gonna get this side by side next to the factory front bumper in just a second to really highlight this, but suffice to say, the HD off-road bumper really tapers up at the corners here, and that is designed to help you out with approach angle, and that's going to improve your overall off-road experience. In order for you to go over something, you need to get your tire up onto it, and approach angle is the first step. Now, as you could have probably told from the title, this bumper also includes some auxiliary LED lighting, two 5-watt CREE LED light cubes. They're 3 inches in size. They're IP67 waterproof, which means they can withstand up to a meter of water for 30 minutes. Aluminum housing, polycarbonate lens, and the light output is going to come at a color temperature of around 6,000 K. That's going to be a very bright white, leaning very slightly toward the blue side. They're also completely plug and play, and if your truck doesn't come with fog lights from the factory, Barricade even throws in a wiring harness for you to hook up to the battery. This bumper also gives you the option to add even more LED lighting if that's your thing. You can fit a 20-inch light bar in this slot in the center here, and if you remove these two side grates, you can do up to a 30-inch up top. You can even mount one up here that will take up to a 30-inch light bar, and all the brackets you need to mount those up are included in the kit. This bumper also retains some very important features from the factory front bumper. It does have cutouts along the bottom right here, so if your truck has tow hooks, they'll be able to mate up seamlessly with this Barricade front bumper, and you get to keep those as a recovery point as a really nice touch. And on top of that, the kit even includes a front license plate mounting bracket. If you live in a state that requires a front plate, you'll be good to go right out of the box with this thing. Some other options for you to trick this thing out would include an overrider hoop, and that would go over a light bar if you do decide to put one up here. There's also a skid plate that is designed for this bumper specifically. However, both of those things are not included in the kit and are an optional extra. Same thing goes with the matching rear bumper. Barricade does make one. However, again, it won't come with this bumper, obviously an optional extra to really tie together the look of your F-150. Pricing for the HD Off-Road, let's talk about that a little bit, and simply put, it's gonna drop in right around that $800 range, and for what you're getting here, that is a really good return on investment. Basically, some of the most budget-friendly bumpers we offer on the site start at around $600, and for some of the big name brands that include LED lighting like this one, you can expect to pay around $1,500 to $2,000. So at 800 bucks, this is a deal. There are a lot of optional extras out there for it as well, and the extra LED lighting is really a nice touch. So next, let's get to the good stuff. How are you gonna get this thing installed on your F-150? Well, first things first, it's pretty easy. Again, the lights are plug and play, harness is included, and that does have a switch on it. There are no modifications required to install this onto your F-150. It is pretty heavy though, and for that, I'm gonna give it an easy 2 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. At most, this should take you about an hour or two in the driveway with nothing but some basic hand tools. So without any further ado, let me show you what tools you'll need and how it's done. Tools we use for this install are going to include an impact, extension, ratchet, socket set ranging from 21 millimeters all the way down to 8 millimeters, wrench set ranging from 18 millimeters all the way down to 10 millimeters, and these 2 Allen keys, which do come included in the kit. Now, before we go and loosen up any of the hardware holding on our front bumper, we're going to have to crawl under our F-150 and unplug the fog lights. And in order to unplug those, we're just going to pull back on this release tab and push down at the same time. We're going to do the same thing over here on the other side as well. Now we're going to loosen up these 21mm nuts holding our bumper to the frame rail. Now one thing to note, this might be blocked with an air dam piece. If that's the case, you could use a trim panel removal tool to get that out of the way. And after that's done, we can come in here with the 21mm socket on the impact to loosen up those nuts. That's one done. There's another one on the opposite side of the frame rail as well. Then we could come over and do the same thing on the opposite side as well. One thing to note is these two nuts are the last thing holding the bumper to the truck, so once you get them removed, be careful. Have a hip into the bumper to hold it still, and then you can take this off. So now that we have our factory front bumper off of our F150, we're going to do a little bit of work and build up our Barricade here, and then we're going to put the two next to each other and point out some differences between these two bumpers. Now there's a lot of stuff on the table. I'm going to tell you exactly what each one of these things is for, and then we're going to go ahead and apply them to our Barricade. So starting over here, this big plate, this is going to go right here in the middle of this slot. This is where a 20-inch light bar would go if you had one of those. It doesn't come included in the kit, but if you did have one, it would fall in right there. The square grates are going to go on the side of that. This is going to be the spot for a 30-inch light bar. If you had one of those, this could also go in this center slot right here, or you could use these brackets over here to run that up top, and then these brackets right here, they would go in this slot in the center. This bracket right here, this is for a front plate. If your state does require those, you do have that bracket available for you. And then over here are light cubes. They're gonna go on the outsides here. And if you didn't want to run those, you have two grates to fill in those slots as well. So we're gonna start off with this big center plate right here, and that is gonna drop in right in the center, and it's going to secure with some button head screws and 10mm nuts. Now, one thing about these that I like to do at least is I like to make sure that the button head of the bolt is behind the grill. That way, if you do ever see through that for any reason, you won't see the nut and the threaded portion. It's just a little bit nicer to do it this way, but it's really up to you. And to tighten those down, we're just going to use the Allen key that comes in the kit, as well as a 10mm wrench. And we're going to do the same thing for these smaller square grates on the outside as well. Now, before we drop our fog lights in, we are going to have to install the bracket for them. And in order to do that, we're just gonna slide that in between the fins like so. This does have a notch cut out of that. You wanna make sure that that is facing forward so that you get the most amount of movement possible out of this if you do need to adjust the fog lights. Now, once we have that bracket installed, what we're going to do is drop a nut sort of down the bracket, and the fin has a cutout in it to hold the nut still while we come in from the side with the bolt. And with that started, we're just going to use the Allen key that comes with the lights to tighten it down. We're going to do the same thing over on this side as well. And we're going to do the same exact thing for the other fog light, and then we can install this to our bumper. So now to install this, what we're going to do is take that bracket we just hooked up to our light. We're going to feed a 13mm bolt through there, and you can see this bracket has those two notches cut out of it, and that's to hold the bolt head still while we come through into our bumper. And then we can thread on the lock washer and 13mm nut. And again, we're just gonna do the same thing for the other side over here. And if you buy this bumper without these fog lights, again, which you can, you would just be installing those filler plates instead. So our Barricade bumper is just about ready to go onto our F-150, but before we do, I figured now would be the perfect time to sit it down on the ground next to our old factory front bumper and point out some key differences. Now, the first and most obvious, it's gonna come in the looks department. We're ditching this factory body color here with all of this plastic along the bottom for some real heavy duty steel. 5/32 inch steel plate. This is going to be a hell of a lot stronger than this factory stuff over here, especially that plastic along the bottom. Now, this Barricade bumper wasn't designed with just looks in mind, but also off-roading in mind as well. You can really tell when you get to the ends of this factory front bumper, you got that square edge to it. That is really gonna hurt your approach angle. This Barricade takes advantage of that by tapering up on the sides, and that is just going to improve your overall off-roading experience, which is gonna be a huge plus for the HD off-road. The next upgraded area is gonna be the fog lights. We're ditching this factory stuff here, standard halogen bulb with that reflector housing for some more modern LEDs. That's really gonna clean up that color temperature. We're ditching the yellow for a little bit of cool white, leaning very, very slightly toward the blue side. That's gonna be a huge upgrade in the looks department, but also light thrown. As this is a little bit old school, that's a little bit more modern, like I said earlier. With the Barricade, you also get the ability to add some light bars, which you wouldn't be able to on this factory front bumper. Again, you could do a 30-inch up top, a 20-inch, or a 30-inch in that slot in the middle if you'd like. Now, what really sets the Barricade over the top, it's the factory features that you're keeping. Again, you do have a front plate mount over here on the Barricade if you need it, and your tow hooks, they're gonna work just fine with either of these two bumpers. So we do have a little bit of prep work to do on our truck before we drop our Barricade bumper in place. We have to install some mounting brackets. We're gonna grab those and they're gonna bolt right up to our frame rail. So we can go ahead and grab the right mounting bracket. You can see this one is on the driver's side and it has that small D marked into it right there. And that is just going to install pretty obviously like so. Now, once we have that in place, we're gonna take the 18mm hardware included in the kit and bolt that down. And on the opposite side, we're installing a flat washer, lock washer, and another 18mm nut. And over here on the opposite side of the frame rail, we're gonna do the same exact thing. Now, as you can tell, this bracket is slotted. So you get a little left and right on the bracket, and then the frame rail is slotted for your up and down. For right now, we're gonna aim for the middle, but if you do need some adjustment, you can always loosen these up later on and tighten it back down. And again, 18 millimeters on both sides. And we're gonna do the same thing over on the other frame rail as well. So now we can go ahead and put our bumper up, and that is gonna rest on top of our mounting brackets. And now that it's resting on those brackets, we can come underneath, and we're just gonna attach the two together with the smaller 16 millimeter hardware. Then we're gonna come over here and get our hardware started on this side. And now we have all of our hardware in place. We're just gonna push up, align our bumper, and then tighten all this down, again, using a 16 millimeter socket and wrench. And then we're gonna do the same thing over on the other side. So now we have to wrap this up by doing a little bit of wiring in our engine bay. Like I said earlier, they are completely plug and play with this wiring harness here. However, the way that I'd personally do this is I'd hardwire the fog lights to the factory harness. That way they work on the factory switch. But what we're gonna show you today is the easiest and most reversible way to get those fog lights to work. And this is gonna be really simple. We have a couple things going on with this harness. We have two contacts here, a relay. We're gonna mount that up in the engine bay, two plug and play connectors, and back here we have our switch, which we're going to feed into the cabin of our truck. Now, first things first, we're gonna mount up our contacts, and they are gonna go on the terminals on the battery, black to black, red to red. We're gonna use a 10 millimeter socket to loosen up the nuts on there, apply the contacts, and then tighten them back down. Now for our relay, we're gonna go under this ground right in front of the hood strut. That is going to take an 8 millimeter socket to remove that bolt. So now we have our plug and play connectors left. We're gonna feed those underneath of our truck in between the battery and the radiator fan shroud. One thing to note about these, you just wanna make sure they're away from any hot or moving components. The spot we're gonna put these should be pretty good. Also, our switch, we're gonna run this along the firewall over to the driver's side, and then we'll be able to put this into the cabin. Again, you wanna make sure the wiring is away from any hot or moving components. Now, the best place I've found for the switch is behind this rubber grommet right here. We're gonna pull that out, feed our switch through, and then we could reinstall it from the other side. That switch is gonna come out in the footwell, and it has some adhesive on the back for you to put that wherever you want. Now, one thing that is worth mentioning is you wanna make sure that this wire is clear of all the pedals. The kit does include some zip ties for you to wire manage this whole thing. Last but not least, all we're gonna have to do is plug in our lights. Guys, that is gonna do it for me. Some closing thoughts here. If your bumper does need some adjustment, you can go back and loosen that up. Also, your fog lights might need some adjustment as well. You definitely don't want to blind the car in front of you. These are definitely really bright, so you want to make sure they're aimed properly. But that's going to do it for me. It's also going to do it for the Barricade HD off-road front bumper with LED lighting, fitting all 09 to 14 F150s, excluding the Raptor models. As always, thank you guys for watching. Subscribe for more like this one. Keep it right here at American Trucks for all things F-150.